What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I'm your hostess, doing the mostest, Keilyn, and we are here with How to Die Alone episodes 5 and 6, guys. So we're just gonna jump right in, especially because we're covering 2 episodes, because they are dropping 5 and 6 at the same time, and they're also dropping the final 2 episodes of the season next week at the same time. So much like episodes 1 through 4, I'm just gonna talk through some things, give like some general overview, my thoughts and my reviews on certain things. We'll get into some specifics, but if you've never seen the show, I don't want to spoil certain things for you. And this show has such interesting spoilers, right? It's minute but major at the same time. So I don't want to say nothing that's gonna be like, oh dang, no, like you ruined that for me. So I'm gonna try with my notes, and hopefully this is a nice and cohesive review and a somewhat retelling of episode 5 and episode 6 of How to Die Alone. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. All right, so again, it's presented by Onyx Collective, and it was created by Natasha Rothwell, who is also credited as an executive producer. The music editor is Scott San Francisco. I keep saying Scott San Francisco, Jesus. Scott Francisco. And it stars Natasha Rothwell as Melissa, Conrad Ricamora as Rory, Jocko Sims as Alex, Deirdre Cross as Jada, Michelle McLeod as Patti, Keilyn Durrel Jones as Terrance, Jaylee Hamidi as Allie, Melissa Duprey as Tamika, and we got 2 new characters introduced to us. Bashir Salahuddin, who plays Brian, which is Mel's brother, and he was introduced to us in the beginning episodes, but he wasn't there long enough to really, for me to mention as like a main character. But his storyline is unfolding in episode 5, so we're gonna mention him, as well as Ellen Cleghorne, who plays Beverly, which is Mel's and Brian's mom. I don't know what's going on with my brain today, but we're gonna get through. So episode 5 is called Trust No One, and per IMDb, it was written by Marquita Robinson. So it opens up with interviews about like messy Thanksgiving dinners, and everybody's talking about like, okay, which side of the family be having the drama, which side of the family has like the better food, this, that, and third. So it prepares us for Thanksgiving. So we've moved along a little bit from episodes 1 through 4 in the space of like timeline wise. So it's Thanksgiving, so November, in episode 5, and we left off in episode 4 where Brian got caught by Mel on Hinge. So she saw that her brother was cheating on his wife. So we're opening up this episode, and he's in the bathroom sneaking and texting this girl named Tia, and just talking, like back and forth. And you can kind of tell through the text messages in the conversation that he's maybe bored and also lonely. But he comes out, he's getting everything prepared for his mom. And I don't know, I can't remember if she was an aunt or a friend. And I watched this episode twice, and I don't remember. But Mom and Co coming over, and Melissa's coming over. So we see Melissa. She's in the cab, and she looks a little different. She's wearing her hair blown out instead of in its naturally curly state. So it's giving when sister went to college and they wore their hair straight. It's giving like I'm growing up, right? Even though she's 30 something. And she's texting as well, just kind of talking about like what she's looking forward to for Thanksgiving, this, that, and third. So she pulls up. I keep saying so. How many times I'm saying so? Every time I say so, never mind. We're not going to turn this into a drinking game, but I'm just saying, if you want to use that. Anyway, Mel gets to the house, and you can kind of see some tension Brian's wife asked him if he was going to bring up the fact that they found out that Mel used his social security number without his permission, and he was just like, look, I'm just trying to keep the peace on Thanksgiving, and my mama gonna be mad if I'm screaming at my sister on Thanksgiving. So Mel shows up, and you just see like he's just trying to hold it together, and they're doing their whole sibling rivalry thing, and Brian starts doing these breathing exercises that he's been working on for whenever his sister or anybody gets him riled up, and then he deflects from whatever it is they got going on to yelling out in the middle of the kitchen that Mel has a new boyfriend, which she doesn't, but you know, Black Thanksgivings, hello, they want to hear about the new man and why you didn't tell us this, that, and third. This episode in and of itself is, I would describe as a filler episode, because most of the episode takes place at Brian's house. And so we're outside of the anchor location, which is the airport, and we're in this home, we're in a more intimate setting, and you get to really see a lot of dynamics. So in the previous episodes, when Mel almost died and she was calling everyone, she finally called her brother, it made you question like, okay, what type of relationship do they have, and why was he reluctant to come and pick her up? And here, where you can't escape, you're like confronted with everything that's going on. So we're at Thanksgiving, and everybody's like talking about what they're thankful for. The mama gives some long ass prayer, so Mel gets up and leaves and goes to the living room while the prayer is still going. She ends up comforting her nephew, and they're talking about some things, and Mel brings up a story where her brother also had like this embarrassing moment that the nephew was talking about, and they end up getting into like this battle of who was like the dumbest child growing up, to the point where Brian gets really, really angry because Mel is pushing some very specific buttons, and the heat of their dislike for one another kind of blows up in front of everybody. So he's in the kitchen and he's talking to his mom, and she's like, look, nobody told you you had to take over this role, but you know, you're here in the first place. And Brian, we finally see like some source of contention with Brian, and he's just like, look, I'm not dad. Like, he died and you thrust this on me, and not only are my wife and my children my dependents, but so are you and my sister. But throughout this entire Thanksgiving, the mom is putting Mel down while simultaneously uplifting Brian. So you can see that the mother has created a lot of strife between both siblings, because she's actively saying things like Mel, talking about Mel's weight and talking about how she is still at like a dead-end job, and that tells you how little she knows about her own daughter, because that's not the case at all. But with Brian, it's my golden child, and thank God for him and his beautiful house and his beautiful family and things like that. And unfortunately, instead of confronting their mother, they're taking the way that they're made to feel by her out on each other. At one point, Brian leaves and he goes to this bar, and Mel ends up following him and going to the bar as well. And here at the bar, they are really having it out, literally going at each other's necks in the way that only siblings can. I have 6 siblings. I know. They are at each other's throat. And then this song comes on, and instantly, much like siblings do, this song brings them back to like a childhood memory, and they're bonding and they're singing, and it kind of like levels the playing field and makes them remember, like, you are my little sister, you are my big brother. Why the hell are we fighting? So finally, they get to speak in a more mature way, and she asks him, you know, why? You know, why are you, what is making you cheat? Like, what is going on in your relationship? And she tells him, you know, have you thought about talking to your wife about it. And he feels that he can't talk to her about it. And he states that they are just going through the ups and downs of marriages. Some years they're really on, and some years they're not, and this is just an off year. And then he talks about something that I think that I'm not sure if a lot of people face this, and I think it's an interesting storyline. I don't know if Natasha and her team of writers are going to explore this, but Mel makes a statement like, you know, mom was never going to be happy because she thought that you were going to marry somebody like her. And he goes off in a memory, and Mel's like, you know, where are you? Like, what's up? And he talks about how he went to like this event with his wife, and they were like, oh, you know, we want to celebrate Black love. All the beautiful Black couples come down to the floor. And he talks about how he looked on and he was just smiling and he was so happy for them. And then he instantly felt like, I will never have this. And so Mel asked him, like, so every woman, and he's like, yes, every woman that I cheat on my wife with is Black. And while I don't know where it could fit in the future, because a big part of his storyline is the fact that Mel saw that he was cheating on his wife, I'm pretty sure they're probably going to explore maybe some of the internal dialogue that one has when you are Black and you express Black pride and Black love, and you teach your children that they're Black while having a white partner, and potentially having to be faced with the fact that they will never understand what you're going through because they will never be Black. And so this was also a good opportunity and a good grounding moment for Brian to talk to Melissa about what's really going on. And she opens up about insecurities, about love. She also talks about how she's finding herself in realizing that she can change, but she's scared that she may end up alone, or that she won't find somebody that she should be with. And Brian tells her, if you just open your eyes, you will see the people around you that love you. You just have to want to see them for who they are and the love that they have, instead of looking for the people that you're seeking love from and they're constantly giving you their backs. So at the end of this episode, they finally come to like this consensus, and they make a joke, and she's just like, oh, so does this mean we're gonna be friends? And he was like, hell no. And I hope that it was a joke, because there's nothing better than being friends with your siblings. Like, my siblings are my friends. I'm gossiping with them, I'm getting the tea, I'm giving the tea, like we be roasting people. Like, they are my homies. I genuinely love hanging out with my siblings, and we all grown, so we be out with each other. And so I'm really hoping that Brian and Melissa can get to a place where a friendship grows from the dysfunction, and it's really going to take them two acknowledging the way that they grew up and the parents that they had in the households, and just kind of putting it all on the table, because at the core of their issues, they had two different parents. You know, she's younger, and it appears that she didn't get the best of either of her parents. When the dad was alive, she didn't get the best of him. And even now at Thanksgiving, she's not even getting the best of her mom. So I'm really hoping that they can sit and Brian can really listen to her and understand that his experience with their parents is not her experience, and maybe he can be a little bit more empathetic towards her in some of the decisions that she makes. This leads us into episode 6, titled Let Fear Win. And the opening question is basically, how do you confront your fears? Do you confront them? Do you avoid them? Do you let them fester and things like that? So we're getting a lot of interviews where some people were very like, no, if I'm scared of something, I'm hitting it head on. And other people were like, you know, I'm still working on that. And I can say, I know me personally, I am a very much like head on fear confronter. There are times where I avoid, where if the cost outweigh the benefit, depending on the timing and where people are like emotionally, like if I have to have a conversation with somebody that's not like where I know that they're not in a state of receiving and really listening to what I'm saying, I'll avoid it. And I'm not afraid of them or the conversation. I don't want to deal with the outcome of what could happen when someone is not ready to receive like a hard truth. But other than that, you know, I think most practical fears, you know, like, a fear of, I don't know, jumping off a cliff or skydiving and things like that. I think a lot of people like chip away at things in that nature. What is Melissa afraid of? Melissa is afraid of flying. And she is still hell-bent on going to her ex's wedding in Hawaii. Now, I, at this point, don't even know if I can adequately call him an ex, because in previous episodes, during one of the flashbacks, she told him, like when he was trying to call her his girlfriend, she was like, this ain't that. And then when she found out he was engaged 2 years later, now it's, oh, my man, my ex. And it's like, these weren't the classifications, girl. They weren't. And at this juncture, at first I felt like Alex was trying to have his cake and eat it too with the way that he was interacting with Melissa at work. But by the end of this episode, I feel that Melissa has great regret, and she fears that Alex was her chance at happiness, and she's afraid of letting him go. So I don't think that it's him. I think it's a combination of let me just get into the episode. I'm getting ahead of myself. So this episode was written by Jen Regan. Again, loving the many women on this project, especially behind the scenes. This is how you get authentic storytelling. You put the people that look like the people that you're casting behind the camera in the writer's room so that you can get something that feels authentic to the viewers. So again, shout out to Onyx, shout out to Natasha, shout out to Big Hattie Productions. This is amazing. So Melissa is graduating from her management course. Brr, 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 brr. And we're so excited. And she has Tamika like do her makeup and everything. And also she's like kind of learning how to do her makeup for the wedding and stuff like that. And so she's getting ready and everybody's super excited for her. And she goes to work, she gets on the elevator, and Patti gets on the elevator as well. And you know, they got beef. Well, Patti has beef with Melissa. Melissa is just returning the energy that she's receiving. Then the elevator gets stuck, and Melissa, she don't like being trapped. She don't like being in the air. She don't like nothing, baby. Like, she is panicking, and Patti is in there as cool as a cucumber. She always pack herself some emergency snacks and everything like that. Like, she is ready to go in this. And I would describe this too as another filler episodes, and I love filler episodes so much because conversations can kind of happen in a bubble without a huge ensemble cast getting in the way of things. And in this elevator, we find out why Patti doesn't like Melissa. And this is where it changed for me that Melissa may be the problem. So they're in there and Patty's being polite, but it's a little icy. So Melissa's finally like, what is your deal with me? Because Melissa was over there like, oh my god, like I gotta go to my graduation, like I have to get on a plane, like what is going on? So Patty's like, one, I wanted to get into this management course and you ended up getting in it. And she was like, I guess I would just have to sleep with Alex just to get ahead. And so Melissa's like, hold on. So that's what this about? Like, didn't you sleep with somebody down in like the luggage lost and found area? And she was like, yeah, but I already told him that I had feelings for him. And he said that he didn't return them. And boom, that was it. But what are you doing? Because it finally seemed like Alex was getting over you, and now here you are worming your way back in, and you're going to his wedding. It's already crazy enough that he even invited you, but okay, cool, maybe he's just trying to be nice, maybe it's a pity invite, but you actually going, I can see that your accepting this invitation is causing him to slip back in a space that he should not be, because he's preparing to marry somebody else. So Patti just gives it to her right then and there. Like, it just is what it is. During this time though, Terrance is waiting outside of the class, and he's waiting for her to come, but he's texting her. He's not getting a signal. He's not getting a phone. She's on the elevator, no signal. They don't know that. And then Alex runs up, and he's like looking in the classroom, and Terrance is like, oh, you here for Mel, huh? That's cool, that's cool, that's cool. How tall are you, bruh? Okay. Yeah, you 5'11"? Yeah, so I work out. And it's like this weird energy. Terrance is acknowledging, he's finding it in himself to acknowledge the fact that he has a little crush. And Alex popping up to the class is kind of threatening what this could be. And you kind of don't even really know motives. Even as a viewer, it's like, yeah, Patti is telling Melissa about herself, but what are Alex's true intentions behind inviting her? Sure, he said, you know, in episode 1, like, oh, we can still be friends, but the way that he's showing up at work in a way that somebody who maybe likes her, or in a way that a boyfriend would, it's kind of giving gray area. But the way that Alex, and shout out to the actor Jocko Sims, the way that he's presenting, it feels genuinely like, oh no, like, this is my friend, I care about her, you know, so I'm gonna come and support her. But opposite Terrance, who has feelings for her, you feel the tension that's created between both of them, in the chemistry and the energy that they're creating in that space, that makes you question Alex's intentions the way that maybe Terrance is questioning them as well. They finally go on the rescue mission to find Melissa. She missed the management course or whatever, but they did safely get her out of the elevator. So they're out at the on the flight line basically, and she's talking to Terrance, and she's just venting about, like, you know, how am I going to get in the air if I'm panicking and freaking out in the elevator? And something happens again. She's venting and eating the pretzel that she snatched out of his hand while she's pacing back and forth trying to figure out how she's going to be able to go. And she's really talking about, like, I want to go enjoy this vacation in this destination, but I don't know if I can do it. I'm afraid. So then she gives him back his pretzel that's half eaten. She walks off to go get her life together, and he looks down and he looks back up, and it's like, yeah, Terrance, yeah, remember when you said that a woman not gonna eat your food after your homeboy said, you know, you're in love when you let your woman share your food? And this is the second time she done ate half your stuff. You didn't protest, you didn't do anything, you just let her do it. So then the sweetest thing happens, guys. It's so sweet. Love a man who takes charge. So Terrance gets the crew that they all hang out with. So it's the other guys on the flight line, and it's the, I forget what they call him, the desk clerk, and Patti as well, of all people. And they basically kidnap Melissa and take her to one of the sim planes. And this is what the pilots and stuff use, obviously, to do simulations, test flights, stuff like that. So Terrance is like, you know, if you're so afraid, let's do a simulation flight before you get on, so you can just get the feel of everything. So you'll feel things shake, you'll feel things move, but we'll still be on the ground. So they go inside the plane, and they're each like different types of passengers. You got somebody who's the air marshal, you got somebody who's like the disgruntled passenger. You have all these people in there, and he's walking her through it, and they're sitting, and she's just in awe, and she's looking at him, and then they hold hands, and she's like, thank you so much, like this is the nicest thing that anybody has ever done, this is so thoughtful. And all her friends are like, listen, we just want you to have a very comfortable experience. So if you're hell-bent on going to Hawaii, we can't do everything to get you over your fear internally, but we can do everything that we can to help you kind of grasp what's going on. And this is the part where Brian's words came back up for me. If you open your eyes, you will see that people love you and you are loved. They took a break from their shift, even Patti, to help you. And even Rory, even though they're not talking right now, Rory was the one who helped them find her. So there's still love surrounding her. And it's in this moment where I'm like begging Melissa, please girl, just look at Terrance and just get the brain signals that he coordinated this. Even the whole group was like, yes, this was all Terrance's idea. Terrance did everything. He put everything together. And she's like, thank you. And right when I'm like, she's gonna see it, Alex runs up on, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry that I'm late. And she hugs him. She's like, oh my God, like, you know, thank you for coming, this, that, and the third. So they get through it, and the simulation is over, and they leave, and Terrance is looking a little, you know, long in the face, and his homeboy was like, bruh, like, that's old news, like, he finna get married, like, ain't even nothing on that. And Terrance was like, it's not even about him. I can't chase somebody who's busy chasing somebody else. And I got sad, guys, because I don't want Terrance to fall back. I really need him to take it one step further and be like, Melissa, I want you. But, you know, such is life. You feel vibes, you feel energy, and you're just like, okay, well. So we're having a girls' night, and it's the night before she's getting ready to go to Hawaii. And they're doing vision boards. It's her, Tamika, and Allie. And Melissa confesses that, you know, when she gets to Hawaii, she's going to tell Alex that she loves him. And Allie's like, okay, bitch, and what do you think is going to come from that? What could you possibly think is going to happen? And I love this part because we kind of get into, and this is what I want to talk to Natasha about specifically. We get into like this montage, kind of like soap opera dream cutaway when you do like a voiceover describing a scenario and then you see them acting it out on screen. Kind of reminded me of Jane the Virgin. And so Tamika's like, oh, Zaddy, let me tell you, it was always you. I love you. Don't get married, because she's Puerto Rican. Don't get married. It's always supposed to be me. And I mean, you know, this could go down the way that you want. And Allie's like, or, okay, or you get there and you look pretty and he's at the altar and he looks handsome and you stand up and everybody's looking at you and they have all of their cameras out because the internet is forever and they're live streaming all of these things. And even though you're scared on the inside, something still tells you to open your mouth and tell this man that you love him and you don't want him to get married to her. You want him to get married to you. And then he looks to you and he says, and Allie stops. And she was like, damn, bitch, what does he say? She said, I don't know. But the point is, there's nothing that he could say that could take away the humiliation that you will face, whether he says yes or whether he says no. If he says no, you look like a complete idiot. And if he says yes, you look like a bitch because you're sabotaging another woman out of personal gain. And Melissa doesn't see it that way. She looks at it as her finally making the decision to, you know, what did Sinclair James say on Living Single when she did some shit that she didn't really think all the way through for the sake of finally standing up for herself. She said, I'm going for mine. where her and Khadijah's check for $500 matured, and it was $2,500, and Khadijah wanted to use it all for a new printer, and Sinclair wanted to use it for her acting seminar. And instead of Sinclair just being honest with Khadijah, she went and spent the money instead of depositing it into Flavor's bank account. And Khadijah found out because they were like, oh, the check bounced for insufficient funds, and they were halfway setting up the printer and they broke down the whole thing and took it back. And they got into this huge blowout. I know, different show. They got into this huge blowout at home, and that's when Sinclair was like, you know, I'm tired of dealing with everything. Everything is always about you. Everything is all about Flavor. And this time, I'm going for mine. And she said it just like that. But basically, that's Melissa's energy. She's like, look, I've been putting my feelings to the side for too long. So Allie's like, okay, bitch. Obviously, I can't talk you out of this, and Tamika here is not helping. So instead of ruining his wedding, how about you just ruin his New Year's and see where this can go? So get up off your ass and go tell him tonight if you so big and bold. So there's that, guys. How to Die Alone, episodes 5 and 6. This was a little bit more recap-y than review-y, but let's wrap it all up together. So going back to what I was saying at the beginning of episode 6 when I was rambling. I think Melissa is the driving factor of this energy that we feel that may seem like there's unfinished business between Alex and Melissa. I think that his kindness, I think she's reading his kindness through the lens of loneliness. And because she had this traumatic experience, and it was a death experience. I can't even say near death. She died. All of these things are coming up, but what she's not addressing is the insecurity that she confessed to her brother in episode 5. So this newfound boldness is kind of being upheld by like straws, because it's built on insecure. It's built on, or insecurity. It's built on a lack of self-esteem. And so she's finding a strength and a boldness in this thing. But I would also add that the simulation flight that Terrance did for her kind of gave her, she conquered somewhat of a fear there, and so she's kind of taking the lesson from that and applying it to her previous relationship with Alex and herself. So it's entwined with a new energy, maybe an energy she hasn't ever felt, or maybe an energy that she lost during childhood or during teen years. And I really hope in future seasons they explore your parents being your first bullies, and your parents being the first people to break you down, and your parents being the first ones to plant insecurity in you. Because again, the Thanksgiving episode, the things that her mom was saying, and the things that when she said that she didn't get the same dad that Brian did, she doesn't say what happened, but we know that he was not the kindest to her during his last days. And so now she's in her 30s. There's so many elements that feed into this. Yes, she's grown. Yes, she can make her own decisions. But there's just so many different layers. And I'm just truly hoping that we get to explore all these layers across multiple seasons. Because Melissa is a character unlike which we have seen before on TV. So I really love her. I really enjoy her. And I love that at the end of 6, or by the time we get to episode 6, we're really grounded in the character development of every single character. They have so much room to grow, but I don't feel that they're loose characters at all. Even Terrance's friends on the flight line, they're kind of they remind me of like Pinky and the Brain, or like Rasputia from the Disney Anastasia, his 2 little minions. That's kind of what they remind me of right now. But they say like significantly profound shit to Terrance that aids Terrance's storyline. So everybody has a purpose in this, so it's very easy to like every single person, and it'll make filler episodes that may not involve Melissa at all, but maybe explores the loneliness and what it means to be alone with some of the other characters. We don't know that. And I watched an interview today of Natasha where they asked her, you know, why did you pick the name How to Die Alone? And she was like, you know, I wanted to create a show and pick a title that really tackled the fact that society says that you cannot have happiness unless you're with someone. And there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. And there's a lot of people that are in relationships and lonely. So we're building a life around this character where she is learning how to live with herself on her own and being able to find happiness in being alone instead of allowing being alone to transform itself into loneliness. Again, Brian said, open your eyes. And if you really open up and see that you are loved by everybody around you, that is how you avoid the loneliness. I can sit in my house and be alone. I can not be in a relationship and not be hitched to somebody and be my happiest self. Because at the end of the day, I live with myself. I live within myself, my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, and I die by myself. So I really love all the thought that was put into it, because you can take a title like How to Die Alone and still have multiple interpretations based on where you are at this point in your life. So I love that. And I just look forward to multiple iterations of every single character and how we explore this around Melissa and away from Melissa as well. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. Again, thank y'all for rocking with me. If you like this episode, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. So like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Leave comments in the comment box below. What did you think about episodes 5 and 6? You can also follow me on Spotify and you can leave 1 to 5 stars over there and you can comment. But you can also follow me on Apple Podcasts, where you can leave 1 to 5 stars and a detailed review. If you want to hit me up on Instagram, you can follow me there at So There's That Podcast. And if you want to know my innermost thoughts about different episodes and different shows that I don't even cover on my podcast, you can find me on Twitter at Keilyn. And with that, I will see y'all in the next episode.